You are standing in a public square. No war is happening. The crowd around you isn't fleeing. It's watching, waiting. What they've come to see is a punishment, and what the state is about to do, it has decided, is not cruelty. It's justice. Rulers throughout history understood something chilling. How you punish one person is how you control 10,000 others. Pain and spectacle were tools of government, as deliberate as any law ever written. These are 10 of the most terrifying punishments ever formally inflicted by one human being upon another. One fact threads through every punishment on this list. None of them emerged from chaos. They emerged from systems, legal systems, religious systems, imperial systems. That is precisely what makes them disturbing. Historian Michel Foucault argued in Discipline and Punish that public suffering was deliberate theater. The crowd wasn't incidental. The crowd was the point. 3 quick anchors. Rome, one of history's most sophisticated civilizations, codified crucifixion as formal law. Cicero called it the most cruel and hideous of tortures. England kept hanging, drawing, and quartering on its legal books until 1782, and the Assyrian Empire left palace wall reliefs, still viewable today, proudly depicting the flaying of defeated enemies as standard imperial policy. These weren't the acts of rogue sadists, they were the system, operating exactly as designed. Let's move through the 10. Not as a list to consume quickly, but as a record to be reckoned with. 1. Crucifixion. Practiced across the Persian, Carthaginian, and Roman worlds. Death came not primarily from the wounds, but from progressive asphyxiation, the chest muscles failing under the body's own weight over hours or days. Scaphism. Described by Greek historian Plutarch, the condemned was secured between 2 boats, force-fed milk and honey until dysentery set in, left floating on stagnant water while insects consumed them from the outside in over days or weeks. The Brazen Bull, attributed to the tyrant Phalaris of Sicily around the 6th century BCE. Victims were sealed inside a hollow bronze bowl while fire was lit beneath. The device was acoustically engineered, so screams emerged as the bellowing of an animal, suffering made audible but stripped of its humanity. Hanged, drawn, and quartered. The condemned was hanged until near dead, publicly disemboweled while still conscious, beheaded, and the body divided into 4 parts, sent to different corners of the kingdom as warning. Last fully carried out in England in 1782 on David Tyree, convicted of high treason. Flaying. The systematic removal of skin from a living person, practiced in ancient Assyria, documented in Aztec ritual contexts, and recorded across multiple cultures. Its visibility was always the point. The rack. A wooden frame that stretched the body until joints dislocated. Used primarily not to punish, but to extract confessions, meaning its purpose was testimonial, built directly into the legal process, torture as procedure, not aftermath. Breaking on the wheel. Used formally across medieval and early modern Europe, including France until the late 18th century. The condemned was bound to a wagon wheel and their limbs shattered systematically with an iron hammer, sometimes over the course of several hours. Sawing. Documented by Roman historian Suetonius and across multiple ancient cultures. The condemned was suspended upside down before being cut longitudinally with a large saw. The inversion was deliberate. It maintained blood flow to the brain, prolonging consciousness as long as possible. Lingqi, death by 1,000 cuts. A formal imperial Chinese execution method codified in law from the Tang dynasty, involving the precise systematic removal of flesh in stages. Officially abolished in 1905. Photographs of its final documented use remain among the most disturbing historical images in existence. Impalement. Used most infamously by Vlad III of Wallachia, the historical basis for the Dracula legend, but documented across multiple empires. Contemporary accounts describe tens of thousands impaled in forests outside his capital, arranged as calculated psychological warfare against advancing Ottoman forces. Suffering weaponized as military strategy. The thread connecting all 10? Not one was the act of a lone sadist. Every single punishment appeared in formal legal codes or documented state practice, considered not only legal but necessary by the civilizations that used them. So what do we do with this? What we know? Across every major civilization in recorded history, without exception, states developed formal methods of extreme physical punishment they considered not only legal but necessary. What we don't know is the exact boundary between punishment as deterrence, punishment as control, and punishment as something darker, the institutionalized expression of the power one group holds over another. Then, a public square, a crowd, a condemned body used as a message. Now, most democracies have moved toward incarceration, toward abstraction, toward punishments the public is no longer required to witness. But the question Foucault raised is still alive. When we made suffering private, did we eliminate it or just move it somewhere the crowd no longer has to reckon with? Maybe the most terrifying things about these 10 punishments isn't how different they are from us. Maybe it's how recently and in how many places they weren't different at all.